And Merry Christmas! Now we all know the festivities of the festive season and of Christmas. But do you know of the darker side of Christmas? Stay tuned. And Merry Christmas to you. Now it's the Christmas season and we're all celebrating, getting together, drinking, socializing, and a lot of merriment, and the giving of presents, especially on Christmas Day when the children get their presents. Remember goodwill to all, and we spread the love. And we remember Jesus' birthday, because he was born on the 25th. Or was he? But I'm going to tell you more about Christmas and the traditions and the darker side of Christmas. Now don't forget, if you've liked these episodes, please click the button, and also if you haven't subscribed as yet, subscribe and click the bell so you'll be up to date when I keep releasing these videos. And be part of our little family as we get to know the unusual and the paranormal and the spiritual. Now, Christmas, as we know it, is a fun time, a festive time, and there are people out there who just hate Christmas as well. But if you trace Christmas back, it goes way back, even before Jesus, beyond the 2,000 years, back to the ancient Greeks and to the ancient Romans. Now all the festivities go back to Bacchanalia and Saturnalia, Roman festivals, and basically Bacchanalia sort of evolved into Saturnalia, and practiced and celebrated by the Romans over 2,000 years ago, and they did it around our Christmas time. They would start around the 17th of December and go for about a week, finishing around Christmas Day. And they would worship the god Saturn. Now he was the god of wealth and agriculture, so it was a celebration so everything would go well for the following year and they would have a good harvest. And also it was a strange festivity, you could say, because they could do anything they like. For a whole week, the courts were closed and they could break the laws and get up to all sorts of mischief. Roles were turned, like slaves could be the masters and the masters would be the slaves. They were even able to gamble legally, because gambling was illegal back then in the Roman times. And if there was any laws broken, there was no punishment. So it was quite a debauch festival where you could drink and be intoxicated and just have a merriment for a whole week. And also presents were given to each other. So there was a lot of gift giving as well. And a lot of the rich would give to the poor. And it's a bit like our festivities that we have leading up to Christmas, how we go out drinking with our friends and socializing and enjoying right up to Christmas. And it's a bit similar to that. Now, who knows when Jesus Christ was actually born? There's been sayings that he was born on the 29th of March, or the 6th of January, or even in the summer months. So right in the middle of the year. Because after all, Joseph and Mary did go back to Bethlehem because there was the census going on. And they had to be in Bethlehem for the census. And most scholars think that the census would most probably take place during the warmer months, during the middle of the year. So Jesus Christ was probably born in the middle of the year and not at the end. And don't forget, the calendar that they used back then was a different calendar than what we're using today. So months would have been slightly different as well. However, the Christian church thought they'd incorporate all the festivities of Saturnalia with the birth of Christ, and also the shortest day of the year, so making it December 25th to celebrate Christmas. And over the years it's become a tradition, and people would gather around. Even in the colder climates in Northern Europe, they would gather around and celebrate Christmas as well. And what better than telling ghost stories? I don't know if you're aware of it, but ghost stories used to be a popular thing to be told around Christmas. Now don't forget, it was the shortest days of the year, longest nights, and they would think that the longer the nights, the more time the spirits had to wander around the earth. And so it was a time a bit like Halloween, where the spirits would be out and about. And before television, before the movies, before the electric light, people would gather around after dinner. And what would you do? Well, tell a story. And a lot of the stories would be ghost stories. Which is why Charles Dickens wrote Christmas Carol, The Three Ghosts of Christmas. Because it was just part of the festivities of Christmas back then. It's telling a ghost story after the Christmas dinner. And we have Santa Claus, the big man that comes down the chimney. And actually, have you thought how he fitted in through the chimney? Which makes you wonder whether these stories was for the people that lived in the big mansions. Because if you do go into a big mansion, their chimneys are huge, and you virtually could come down the chimney. But, of course, with everyone with their small little fireplaces, it's a bit harder. But getting back to Santa Claus, he evolved from the story of Saint Nick. Now, it's quite interesting, though, because Saint Nick became a saint because he actually went into an inn. And this is the creepy side. He went into an inn and he could sense that the innkeeper had actually murdered 3 young boys. And he actually pickled the dismembered bodies. And he was able to sense that and actually find him out. And what made St. Nicholas a saint was that he was able to resurrect the 3 boys, to bring them back to life. And that's how he became a saint. That's the story anyway. So that was St. Nicholas. Bit different from the saint giving out presents. He probably did that as well. But St. Nicholas also had a helper. Now, there's stories on how he got this help. Apparently he was an orphan, and St. Nicholas sort of adopted him, and he became Krampus. Now, if you were a good child, St. Nicholas would give you a present. However, if you were a bad child, Krampus would give you a piece of coal. And that's one version. But there's another version that if you were really bad, he'd kidnap you and put you in his sack and take you down to hell for at least a year. That's a different side of Santa Claus that we didn't know. So in a way, you had 2 of them. If you were good, you got a present. If you were bad, you could have been taken away. And there's lots of countries that still think of Krampus in one form of another, and sometimes known as different names as well. In fact, there's a Krampus festival that they still celebrate at the beginning of December in around areas like Bavaria and the Austrian Alps. And you can go and they'll have a Krampus parade, and there'll be people dressed up as half goats and half man with horns, just running around the towns. Now, through the years, St. Nicholas evolved, and he evolved into probably what we know as Santa Claus. And the first reference we really have of Santa Claus is back in Harper's Weekly, back in the 1860s, who actually depicted Santa Claus as a man wearing all green, and he was actually associated with the woods and the forests and the pagans. Santa Claus, as we really know today in the red outfits, is really from Coca-Cola, dressed in red to blend in with their logo, which was set up back in 1931. Although there may have been a few other references to Santa in red before that, but maybe they were just getting in on the idea. But that's how we remember Santa Claus today. Basically, all in red and being a jolly, laughing fellow. And you know, the traditions of the mistletoe, well, that goes back a while as well. Now, mistletoe is actually a parasite. It lives on other trees. And it's always had some magical quality, especially to the ancient druids in Old England. They always thought it had some magical power, and they would go up the tree and cut down the mistletoe, and someone underneath would catch it in a cloth or robe. And it had to make sure it didn't touch the ground, because if it touched the ground, it would have lost its magical properties. And they would use mistletoe in rituals and in medicine as well. And it came, the idea of kissing under the mistletoe is from a far northern ancient tradition. Now, we kiss under the mistletoe from the legend, the North Scandinavian legend of Frida, who was a god and who loved her son Balder so much that she told everyone and everything not to hurt him. Now, the god Loki actually made an arrow out of mistletoe and shot him and got his heart and killed him. Now, Frida was so stricken with grief that she cried so much that her tears became the white berries that we see on mistletoe. And her grief was so strong that the gods resurrected him and brought him back to life. Now, Frida was so overwhelmed that she turned the mistletoe into a symbol of love and joy. And that's one of the reasons, apparently, why we kiss under the mistletoe. So that's just a quick rendition of Christmas through the centuries. How it started off as a festivity of debauchery and intoxication and ecstasy through the years, and then become incorporated into the Christian religion. And also the foretelling of the ghost stories, and also the other characters, that if you weren't good, you'll be taken away. So let's be glad that Christmas has evolved. But will Christmas stay around? Is it evolving into something else? We keep hearing people saying how they're sick of Christmas and the commercialism of Christmas. Everyone has forgotten about the goodwill and the love to one another. So will it just fade away? Or will it yet evolve into something else? We're yet to see. But in the meantime, let's spread goodwill to everyone. Have a mince pie. Have a bit of festive drink and cheer. And enjoy Christmas. And also maybe remember Jesus Christ as well, which we attribute Christmas to at the moment. Now, don't forget, if you've liked this episode, click the like button if you've enjoyed this episode, and subscribe if you want to hear more interesting stories. And also click the bell so you'll be notified when I do release another video. And come along on this journey with me on finding out little bits of history on the paranormal and the maybe the spiritual side of things as well. And if you have any comments, let me know. Let me know what you think of this episode, and let me know if you want to hear about something, and I may be able to do some research on it. So until next time, stay safe, keep well, and be happy. And have a Merry Christmas.